So welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be tackling this one. So if you watch the AutoCAD art video of me just kind of showing you how I would create something like this, just with some smooth music behind it, you can go ahead and check out that video. But this one will be the instructional one. So what I'm going to do in this one is I'm going to complete this one in AutoCAD, and I will also draw the isometric. So this will be a little bit longer than normal view. Also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the title block using the standard method, right? So a lot of the times I use the annotative method, but in this one I will be using the standard method. So if you got any confusion about that, hopefully I can clear it up in this video. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's go ahead and do our normal thing here. We'll go ahead and turn off this grid. We don't need that. I'll put the ortho on, and then I'll also verify what running O-snaps I have on. So these are the common ones I will have. Alright, let's start off with creating the top view. I'll start off by using the rectangle command. Go ahead and click here, and I'll make a rectangle that happens to be 60 by 100. So 100 will be my X value, comma 60. Alright, let's go ahead and zoom the extents. And then I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. Alright, so what I want to do on this is that I want to kind of offset these lines. Now remember that this is a polygon since I created it, I'm sorry, a polyline, since I've created this with the rectangle command. So therefore I have two choices. I either have to explode this or I can use the construction line method. I'm going to use the construction line method. It makes things super easy, and then that way I like to keep things, if I can, all as one polyline. It really is not that relevant in this drawing, but if you're creating some kind of super big drawing, every line does count. Alright, so you can tremendously save space with your file sizes by keeping things that are polylines and blocks and things of that nature. Alright, so let's go ahead and create the construction line, right? Construction line will be underneath the draw. Drop down, and it's going to be the one with the double arrows pointing both sides. So I'll go to this icon, and then inside of this command there's an offset. So I'll choose offset, and then I'll type in the distance. So my distance will be 15. Go ahead and hit enter. I will select this top horizontal line, and then I'll click below it. I'll do the same with this line here, and then I'll click above it, right? So those two lines are at 15. Let's go ahead and hit escape and get out of that command. And then to get these lines off of here really quickly, right, we can use the EX trim command, and I have to type that in. It does not have an icon. I'll click here. I'm going to click my rectangle, and then I'll click to the outside of it, and you should give it a second and AutoCAD should trim those lines off for you. Alright, next let's go back to the line command, and instead of going up and picking the icons, it's really useful if you don't actually select the icons and just type in your command. So I'll go with L, enter. I'll go from this midpoint going straight across. Alright. And next thing I want to do is I have an arc that's located here, right? And we're going to see some of these arcs and things of that nature, what I'm trying to describe to you, when we actually get to creating the isometric. But I do have an arc that's located here, and that's located here, and it has a radius of 15. So I'll go ahead and take care of that right now. Go back to the construction line, and the shortcut for that is XL, enter. And then I have to tell it offset, so I'll type in O, enter. My distance will be 15, enter. And then I will go ahead and select this vertical line here, go that way, this vertical line here, and come this way, right? Go ahead and hit escape. Let's use the trim command, so TR, enter. And then I'll start trimming off this. So I like to walk my lines down to where I want it to stop. And I'll come on this side and take care of that one, and the opposite on this side, right? So I'll go ahead and go to there, and then I'll stop it here. Now I do have some hidden lines that are going underneath this, but I'll go ahead and create my other view first. Oh, let's go ahead and get rid of one more line before I forget about it. Let's go ahead and trim this line out right here in the middle as well. Okay, so I do have those hidden surfaces that are at the bottom, but I'll go ahead and create the view that's underneath here, and then I'll start dealing with that one. Alright. Just gonna zoom out a little bit. Let's create some more construction lines here just to keep everything in line. So construction line, so I'll just select the vertical option, and then I'll pick these endpoints, right? Now I'm not gonna pick all of them That way I don't want to overly confuse my drawing here at the bottom. But I will select these 3 lines. Let's go back to the line command, so just L enter. I want to draw a line going straight across here. Go ahead and hit escape. And then I want to offset the height of this, right? So let's go ahead and offset this. So O enter. That distance that I'm going to need should be 55. I'll offset this line going down at that height. Let's escape out of that command. Go back to the offset command. Type in the distance or the height of this one. Will be 30. And I'll go ahead and click here and go up here, right? So now I have kind of enough what I need to create the shape that I want, right? I just need to trim off some of this stuff. So I'll go back to the trim command, right? I'm going to type in TR, or you can come up here and find the trim command. So TR, enter. Now, if you're using a later version, or I should say a newer version of AutoCAD, you have to specify going to the trim edges or the boundary edge if we're using the extend command. But if you're using one of those old versions, like I think always as early as 2015, it'll automatically assume that you're in the trimming edge, and you would have to hit the enter button to bypass it. But in our case, I have to select cutting edge. I'm going to select these 2 lines and these 2 lines, right? Go ahead and hit enter. And what that's going to allow me to do is that when I trim off around here, it's going to take all of these lines that are above this, right? So I won't have them stopping in between here. So I'm just going to click one click here, go straight across, do a click here, come here, do a click here, do a click this way, and one click and go up here. Okay. Escape out of that command. Let's go ahead and concentrate on working on this view. Alright, so I can start here at the bottom here, and let's go ahead and start offsetting some things. So let's go ahead and offset, give it a distance of 10. That's what we're going to have here at this surface. And then we're going to do also some offsets of 10 going across here. Alright, so we do have that surface here. We're also going to have a hidden surface that's going across here. But like I said, we're not going to worry about that now or overcomplicate our drawing just yet. Alright, let's go to the trim command now. So escape out of that, go to trim. And then let's start getting rid of some of these lines, right? So this line comes all the way down to here. Let's go ahead and trim this portion off going that way. Likewise on the other side here. I will go ahead and trim these lines off going to here. I will trim off this gap in between here. Now this line I really don't need, but it's a good midway point. So I will keep it there for right now. Alright, let's go ahead and escape out of this. Well, I'm trying to debate should I do it or not. Well, let's go ahead and take this off as well. Okay. Alright, now we have this kind of set up. So now I need to either create an arc that goes across here, and I do know the radius of the circle that I need to create, or I can use a circle and trim it. I will show you both options. So if you haven't used an arc before, here's one of those good things about it, right? They give you a lot of different choices here in the arcs, but most of them are repeating. It just depends on what you have. What we know is that we know where this arc will start from, we know where it will end at, and we also know the radius. So therefore, a good option that we can use is going to be the one that's called start and radius, right? So we have all that information. So I'll go ahead and select start and radius. Now remember that when you're creating your arcs, think about it in a counterclockwise rotation, right? So that's what's going to give you that angle. What I mean by that, if you create your arc, and I want that arc to be up here along the top. So if I create it in that fashion, I will get the circle the arc relatively easy. If I start from here and it's going to go to here, it's going to create that arc at the bottom. So I will click this endpoint first as my start. This midpoint should be my arc, perpendicular in this case, should be my end. And now what I like to do is always kind of preview a little bit if I can. And then you're going to type in what your radius will be. And in our case, our radius should be sitting at 25. And you will see that that circle will be created along the top. So the important part is knowing where your start and where your end is and where you want to create that circle from. Now just to bore you a little bit with it, if I do create it the other way, I will show you that as well. So if I go arc, start and radius, And remember that I have to select this in a counterclockwise, but say I didn't know that and I said, okay, I'm going to select here, and then I'll select here, and then I'll type in the radius, which is 25. That radius will go down to the bottom, right? So if I click here, it's going to create that radius at the bottom. So it's super important that you know which direction or how you're trying to create them. It will save you from having to come back and use a command like mirror or something else. Alright, so now that I have this arc on here, let's go ahead and create it the other way, right? Let's create it with a circle. And a diameter circle, believe it or not, is going to be the 2-point option. So I'll go to 2-point circle. I'm going to select this endpoint or midpoint or perpendicular, and then I'll go to that endpoint. Now with this method, I do have to come back and use the trim command and go ahead and trim off the extra portion here. But it's a way that you can do it relatively quick. Both ways work. It's just depending on which one do you understand. Alright, let's go ahead and get rid of these lines here in the middle. I'll go ahead and create the other arcs that are on the inside here, or we can just do an offset, right? We do know the radius of that other circle on the inside, and let's go ahead and flash to the drawing so I can explain this. And what you see here is that I do have a radius sitting at 25, so that's the one that we're creating, that we've already created. Next, we're going to have a radius that's sitting at 22.5, right? So if we do a little bit of math and we subtract these two numbers from each other, that should tell us the thickness. That'll also give us how far they offset, right? So if I just subtract those two numbers and doing a little simple math here, it should be a thickness of 2.5, right? So let's go ahead and get back to AutoCAD and put in 2.5 as the offset. Okay, so I'm going to use the offset command. I'll come to offset, go ahead and type in my distance, which I found was 2.5. And then I will offset this arc to the inside here, and then this arc to the inside here. Okay. We do have an arc that is showing up here, and we do have a hidden one that's showing up here. Once again, you can put as many hidden surfaces on your drawings, and sometimes it will overpower your drawing. So you will see that sometimes in my drawings I will leave some of those hidden surfaces off. But when we do this in 3D AutoCAD, you will see all of those hidden surfaces. Okay, let's go ahead and use the fillet command. So I'll go to fillet, then I'll go to radius. I'm going to type in my radius, which is going to be 15 in this case. Enter. I'll go ahead and select multiple, and I'll show you why I'm going to select multiple here in a second. But I'll select here to here, right? Now by me selecting multiple, it keeps me in the command. I already have that radius drawn of 15, but now I want to go and put another radius in. So I'll go back to radius. This time I'll type in 0, enter, and then I'll use this line going to this line, right? So that way I can kind of do two things at once. I can extend those lines back to each other, and I do have that radius that's going there, right? Remember, we have the exact same thing going on this side, but they will be hidden surfaces, right? We will see this part, and the arc is actually in a hidden surface there. But I'm not going to worry about creating that quite yet. All right, next thing I need to do is go ahead and come over to this side and now create the right side view. I can either use miter lines, or in this case it's a simple enough drawing where I don't have to do that. I can simply just create it from what it is. So I'll go to the line command. I'm just going to touch this endpoint, and I'll drag over this way, and remember that I'm trying to keep these views in line with each other, right? So I'll click here, and I'm going to go this direction, a distance of 60. Then I'm going to go up a height of 55. I'll go in a height of 15, and then I have to decide how far is it to go down to here, right? So now this is where we have to do a little bit of math, and if you want to pull out your calculator, you can do that, or we can use the calculator inside of the AutoCAD command. So if it's a lot of stuff going on, or you just don't feel like doing math, aim in the downward direction, type in apostrophe CAL, go ahead and hit enter, and in our case our numbers is going to be 55 minus 15, right? Go ahead and hit enter, and it will do the math for us. You can see that that number is 40. I'll go to the left here, a distance of 30. Let's go up a height of 40. Let's go to the left, a distance of 15, and then let's type in C to close it, right? So C, enter, right? So just with a little bit of math, we can figure out most of this stuff that's going on. One other last thing we need to do is go ahead and put the line that's going right across here, right? So let's go to line. I will touch this intersection or endpoint. Once it tracks here, I will do a left click at that intersection, then go right across to here. Let's go ahead and escape out of that, and then go to trim, and trim off the portion in between. Okay, so my drawing really doesn't have any hidden surfaces right now. That's going to be up to you to decide if you want to put the hidden surfaces on or not, right? We can't dimension to hidden surfaces, so sometimes you'll see drafters or designers will leave their drawings kind of like this, but if it's something that's relevant that you really want to show, you can put those hidden surfaces, all right? But for now, let's go ahead and leave them off, and then we get to the drafting portion, we will put those hidden surfaces in. All right, now let's go ahead and switch over to doing the isometric of this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the ISO draft button. Let's go ahead and give myself a little real estate up here and start creating this isometric. I will start off in the isometric left plane. Make sure that your ortho is still on. And then let's start drawing some things, right? So let's go with the line command. Let's go straight up in the air, a distance of 30. Let's come downward in this direction, a distance of 100. I will go down a distance of 30. Let's go to the left here, a distance of 10. Let's go up a height of 10. Back this direction, 80. We're going to go down 10, and then we will type in C to close. Okay, so now we basically created this left side view of it, or in our case it's going to be the front view of what we actually created. Let's go ahead and switch to isometric right, and we do that by selecting here, or you can also type in F5. So I'll go to ISO right. Now remember that this view is just going to be straight across, and we do know those numbers because we just calculated most of them. So I'll go here, and I'll go right across this direction, a distance of 60. I'll go up a height of 55. I'll go inward this way, 15. Come down 40. And now that I thought about it, yeah, that height will actually not be that way because I'm actually taking in consideration the arc part that's on here. So let me go ahead and undo back. Let's go ahead and hit the undo button once and hit the undo button twice. And let's see, one more time. Okay. So until I get back to this point, actually I want to go up a height of 30. All right, that makes sense. Then I'm going to go this direction, a distance of 15. Right? So we went up a height of 30, and then we're going to subtract down 15, so that should leave me coming down this direction, 15. Let's come over this direction, a distance of 30. Let's go up 15. And then I'll come right across here. Alright, so we have kind of two of our views created. Let's go ahead and kind of finish out most of this stuff here. So I'm going to select this line here. I will use the copy command. I'll go from this endpoint, and basically I'm just going to click at each one of these endpoints here so I can kind of see this shape. I'll do likewise with this one. I'll go ahead and select these vertical lines and horizontal lines. And I'm just going to copy these from this endpoint going to this endpoint. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and put one more here. I just noticed that I left that off of my drawing, but let's go ahead and select this line here and copy it from this endpoint to that one. Alright, let's go ahead and trim some stuff off. So trim. You can go ahead and get rid of that portion here and that line here. Okay, so basically now what we've done is we've created, you know, just the flat part of it without the humps on the top of it or the actual two radius or radii that are sitting here. Let's go ahead and start off by dealing with this radius. Let's go ahead and switch back to the isometric left, and I want to go ahead and create this radius that's going here. The way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to go ahead and shorten these lines by the radius, or we can draw the circle and then we can move it into place. So on this method, I'm going to show you with the lengthen command, and on the other side there, I'm going to show you with if we use basically an ISO circle and move it into place. All right, so what I need to do is I need to go to lengthen. I'll choose the delta option, tell it -15. Go ahead and select this line here and this line here. Escape. I'll type in EL, that's short for ellipse, enter. Then I want to type in I for ISO circle. What I'm going to do is touch this endpoint, and then I'll come and touch that endpoint. I'll come straight down to where they meet, which should be somewhere here. Do a left click here, and then go up to that endpoint. Alright, let's go ahead and trim off the rest of this. So I'll go to trim, go ahead and take away, and I do have an extra one there. Alright, so once I have that trimmed off, I'll go ahead and copy this circle. So let's use copy, select my arc, enter, from this endpoint going to that endpoint, right? Let's go ahead and move this line here. So I will select it, go to move from this endpoint, and then I want to put it on this quadrant. Alright, then finally we can trim off some stuff. So TR, and then just go ahead and trim off that portion. Alright, so we do have this one here. If we're doing the same thing on this one, we're going to type in EL, enter, I enter. I'll go ahead and click this endpoint, and then I'll type in the radius, which is going to be 15. So remember that when we create this, we need to move it in the X direction and in the Y direction. So I'm going to go to move. So I selected first and moved it. Pick a base point here. I'll aim this direction, type in 15. Come back to the move command. Select my circle again, enter, select here, and then go downward 15. Alright, let's go ahead and trim this off. So go to the trim command, get rid of the extra stuff that's kind of going around here. Alright, then we'll go to copy, select my arc here, and I'll go from this endpoint to that endpoint, right? Let's go ahead and trim off the rest of this, right? So I'll go to trim, take away these two lines here. And what I'm going to do with this line is I'm going to go ahead and move it, right? So I'm going to select it, go to move. I'll go ahead and place it right along this endpoint. And then what I'm going to do is I'll come back and copy this line, right? So let's go ahead and copy it. So I'll go to copy, select this line here from this endpoint. I'll place it on that endpoint here, and then I have an endpoint that's located here. Okay, so now that we have our arcs and everything located on here, so now let's go ahead and worry about our big humps, right? So once again, we got kind of two ways of how we want to do this. The easiest way of doing these, in my opinion, would just be to draw the big circle here and then go ahead and move it over and place it to where you want it. What I mean by that is just go with the ellipse, ISO circle, select this endpoint, and then we do have a radius of 25. Do that same command again, so I'll hit enter. That takes me back to the ellipse command, hit I, enter. Go ahead and select this endpoint, and then kind of preview it, and this has a radius of 22.5. Alright. So I have this located. All I need to do is move it to the left a distance of 25. So I will select these two lines, go to move, select here, go this direction, type in 25. Let's go ahead and trim this portion off. So go to the trim command, so TR, enter, and go ahead and get rid of all of these extra arcs. Okay, now that I have that, let's go ahead and copy this. So go to copy, select these two lines, go from this endpoint over to that one. Alright, let's go ahead and kind of finish off some of this. I will select this line here and copy it in a couple of places. So select it, copy it. I'm going to place it at this endpoint here, and then I should have a quadrant that's located here. Alright, now we're ready to start trimming off some of this, right? So let's go to the trim command, so trim. And now we got to kind of imagine this in our head, what's happening. So we don't see this going through. And we don't see this arc showing up, right? We don't see this arc happening all the way until it peaks out right here. This big arc here, we don't see it at all. It goes away here. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Okay. And then we have this portion here that we don't see. So this portion and that one. Okay. And now one other thing we don't see is we don't see that line that's actually cutting through. So now we have that one created, and we're going to do the exact same thing along the other one, right? Now the good news is that we can copy these. We don't have to redo everything. We can take these two arcs, right? We can take that line there, and then this line. We can choose copy. I'm going to use this endpoint, and I'll place it along that endpoint. Let's go ahead and escape out of this. And now we have to, looks like I left something. Let's go ahead and copy this line here. So I will take that and go to copy from this endpoint here and go ahead and place it along that endpoint. Okay. I'm gonna do some moving and things of that nature, so I will select this line and go ahead and move it forward. So I'll take it from that endpoint to here. And I'm just trying to look around this and see if I see anything else that's out of place. Everything else looks good. Let's go to the trim command and start trimming off some of this stuff, right? So we don't need to see that. We can leave this on here. Technically it's not there, but that's kind of up to you. Let's go ahead and get rid of it. And then we're going to trim in between this line and that one. And I think we do have it on that one. Okay, let's escape out of this and take a quick look at it. And now this is what I was trying to explain to you when I was creating the 2D portion of it, is that we do have an arc that's simulated here, and we do have one that's cut in here. So we have all kinds of things that are kind of happening on this drawing, all right? So hopefully you enjoyed the isometric drawing here. Let's go ahead and switch over, and now we're ready to do some drafting portions, right? Now once again, I will leave it up to you if you want to keep the tangential lines on here, and I'll show you what that looks like if we do remove them. So before I go into the drafting portion, if we turn or take these lines off, you can see that it kind of shows a little bit different story, but either way is correct. Remember that an isometric is nothing more than a pictorial view. Yeah, let's go ahead and trim that off as well, since we're doing it that way. Okay, so this is nothing more than a pictorial view of what's happening in reality with this shape. Alright, so kind of going back over here to the drafting portion, the first thing I need to do is figure out what size title block that I'm going to use. Let's go ahead and turn the ISO draft off, and then I'll go ahead and create a rectangle. So A size, B size, really doesn't matter, or even a C size. The concepts will all work the same. So depending on what title block size that you use, it's going to determine what scale factor you're going to use. Whether that scale factor is a lot larger than what it needs to be or smaller. That's all determined on the paper size. I'm going to do this one on an A size, right? So I will start off by creating a rectangle. The lower left corner will be at 0, 0. Go ahead and hit enter. And then the upper right corner will be at 11, 8.5. Alright, let's zoom into our title block here. Let's do an offset, so O enter, 0.25, enter, go ahead and click here, and then click to the inside. Alright, so now we have this created. Let's go ahead and make it a block. So I'm going to highlight both of these. I'll go to create. I usually like to give it a name like TB. That's just short for title block. If you've done it the correct way, or the way that I've done it, you don't have to mess with any of these other settings. Just go ahead and hit OK. And now this should be your block. Let's go ahead and select this and do a right click and open up the properties window. That's what you're going to have here. Alright, now we can kind of experiment with some numbers here. So we're going to experiment with the scale X and scale Y. I'll go ahead and type 30 here and 30 here. And then we're going to take a look and see if we can fit everything that we need on the inside of this. So if I go to move, and I'm just typing in M enter. Let's go ahead and select all of this for right now, but the only part that I want to focus on is this on the inside. I will turn the ortho off just so I can freely move this around. Alright, so what I'm looking for is, do I have enough room to put dimensions all around here? And if the answer is yes, you're happy with it, then go with it. If you do need a bigger size, don't be afraid to do that. Alright, so we do have our title block set, right? Remember that our scale factor now, and this is the most important number here in AutoCAD when you're getting to the drafting portion, is going to be 30. So from that, that's what's going to set up everything. Now I'm going to decide, am I using the standard or the annotation? So in the intro, I told you I will be using the standard method, meaning that I will calculate and put in everything that I need, right? So I have to figure out all the numbers. All right, 30 is my number. So I will type in LTS, and that LTS stands for line type scales. This is what's going to adjust your hidden lines, your center lines, and things of that nature. And I will type in what number I want that to be. So LTS, go ahead and hit enter. That number will be 30, and go ahead and hit enter. Now we don't have any hidden lines or center lines or things of that nature, but we will create some here in a little bit, and then we will see the difference of it, right? So I will go back and forth and play with that number. But for right now, what I've just done is I've increased the scale of my line types. All right, let's go ahead and create a couple of layers here real quick. So we'll create a center one. So just CEN, go ahead and hit enter. I will create a hidden one. I don't have any kind of phantom lines or anything of that nature. I can create, let's see what else we have. Let's put a dimension one here. So a DIM. And I'm trying to think, do I have anything that's just kind of out of the ordinary? And this should be, you know, more than enough for what we need. It's quite simple. All right, let's go ahead and make our dimensions a color of red. So that's going to be color 1. We're going to go ahead and make our hidden lines. Let's make it a blue. So that's color 5. And then we're going to make our center lines a cyan color, which is a color of 4. Remember that we have to go ahead and load our line type. So underneath the center, select the word continuous, select load. I will use the center 2, hit OK. Then I'll select center 2 and then hit OK. I'll go to my hidden one next, select the continuous next to that, go to load, scroll down to where I see hidden 2, select it, hit OK, and then I will select hidden 2 and hit OK. Alright, so now I have my hidden line set and my dimension lines, right? Alright, my center and my hidden lines. Alright, so I will put a couple of hidden lines on here just to show you what's actually happening. I want to put that hidden line that's going right across here, for example. So I will go to the line command. I'm going to touch that endpoint, kind of move my cursor out here to when I get the tracking. Do a left click here, go straight across. Let's go ahead and put our ortho back on and end it here, right? Let's go ahead and select this and go ahead and put it on the hidden layer. So you see those line types will appear. If I go back to LTS and I set that number to 1 and I didn't change it, you're going to see that that shows up as just a solid line. Now if you zoom way in, you will see that it is indeed a hidden line, but in order to increase the scale of that, I have to type in LTS. If you're going to use the annotation scale, do not use both of them. So if I'm going to use annotation scale, leave that number in your LTS set to 1. Meaning that if I'm going to change this number and say if I make it 1 to 30, there is no need for me to go and change that, because when I do a regen, RE, and hit enter, it's going to increase those line types. If I go ahead and set this back to 1, let's do a regen again, that's going to set it back, right? I have to go ahead and type in LTS, enter, and then I'll type in the distance that I need it to be as 30. So when I do that, that is what's setting it. That's why this is the standard method, right? So standard method, you just forget about that this even happens. You don't know anything about that. This is just kind of the way that you're going to do it. Let's go ahead and put a hidden line right along here as well. So let's go back to the line command. I will touch this endpoint, come over and track. Do a left click when it intersects and go right across to the perpendicular here. And then we can use match properties and just match it, right? So I will select the one I want it to look like and then my target. Okay, so you see that I do have those hidden surfaces there. Here along the top, I can track these up here, or I can just do an offset. It's just a offset of 10. Remember that we offsetted this number at 15. So I will go back to offset, type in 5, enter. I'll offset both of these lines here. And then I'll go to the extend. So extend is just EX, or you can just come here and select extend. And then we're going to extend both of these inside lines. Let's escape out of that. And then we will use the match properties again. I'm going to select the hidden line here. Then I will use these two surfaces, right? Okay, but this is just the simplest form of using some hidden lines. There are more hidden surfaces, but for what our drawing needs, this is totally fine. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start getting ready to put on my center lines, right? So I have to first go ahead and set up my center layer command, and I want to go ahead and put that on the send layer. And then, since I know that my extension will be super small, I will increase the extension. So that's going to be center EXE. And then I'm going to give it a value, let's call it 3. And now we're able to go ahead and kind of put our center lines and things of that nature on here. Let's jump to the annotate tab here, and then go to center lines. I will select this line here, and with this one, go back to that command again and select this line and then this one. Now these are going to have to be adjusted a little bit, so I will select it. I'm going to select this square here and come down and select it on that perpendicular there. Likewise on this one. So I'm just going to put those two back. Now I do want those to show as center lines, right? So I will select both of these. And inside of my property, I will adjust just the local scale of those, right? This has nothing to do with any of the other ones. So when I change it here, it's only affecting those two lines. Let's go ahead and see what 0.75 does in the line type scale. Do I get it to show up? Nope. A little bit smaller. And then I go to 0.5 and I do see that I do get a line in between there. So I'm very happy. All right. And let's go ahead and put a center line that's going here, right? Now I can try to do it with this one, and I don't think it will work. I have to use a center mark on these two. And so I can select here and here. And what I have to do is on these is that I have to select them, and let's go ahead and put the square into the center. And I have to do this for both of them. So I'll escape out of that one. Let's go ahead and select this one. Let's go ahead and put the square in the center. Like I missed the center on that one. Alright, and then I will select both of these, and inside of here I will look for the extension on the left and right, make those numbers 0. So both of those numbers are 0, and that should be, you know, about as much as I can do with these. Right, so I do have my center lines on here. Everything still looks good. Now we're ready to start doing some dimensioning. So I will come to my drop down here. I will tell it that I want all of my dimensions to be on the dimension layer. So that's what this little icon or this little drop down will do for you. Let's go ahead and set up our dimension style. So just D-enter. Should bring me to the dialog box. I'm using the standard method, so therefore I will just come to modify. I always start from right to left. I don't know why, it's just kind of the way my brain works. So primary units. Go ahead and just tell it to suppress those trailing zeros underneath the fit. This number has to match your scale factor. Therefore this number will be 30. Once again, this is some of the things you get used to when you're using the standard method. Underneath the text, let's go ahead and make this text a little bit smaller. So we're going to make it 1/8 of an inch tall. And then underneath my symbols and arrows, I'll go ahead and tell it to be none. Right? So that should be everything that I need to create these dimensions. Go ahead and hit OK. I'm just verifying that standard is my current style. Go ahead and hit close. And then we're ready to go ahead and operate. Right? So let's go ahead and use a linear. Remember that this is one continuous line, so I'll hit enter, select the whole line, come here and place this dimension. Go ahead and hit the enter button again, and then hit enter again. Select this line, go ahead and place that dimension. Let's go ahead and hit enter here. We're going to go from the height, so that's going to be from here to here. Go ahead and place that dimension. I want the 10 to be on the outside, right? So I will select enter. I'm going to select this endpoint first to this one, and then when I come down and place that dimension, this 10 should be on the outside. Go back to linear. I'll go from this inside point to this one, or we can use the continue option. Let's go ahead and use the continue option just so I can show you that it's going to automatically pull from the last distance or the last endpoint that I pull from, but I don't want that, so I'll go to select this side, and then click on that endpoint. Let's go back to linear, and we're going to select that endpoint here to this one, and we'll place that dimension. We do have a couple of 25s here at the top, so let's put a linear from that endpoint to this one. And once again, it depends on how you want these to appear. So if you want them on this side, I can move them. I want to see how they look on the middle. And since I don't have any dimensions on the inside of those or on the outside, I think I will leave it in the middle. Let's put a linear dimension from this endpoint up to here. I will click on this endpoint, escape, and then I'll select this one, select the square in the middle of that 25, place it at that midpoint. Let's go ahead and do these radius, or radii I should say. But before I do that, I need to move this over just a little bit and give myself a little bit more room to work with. So I will move, and I'm just going to put a window around those objects there, kind of give myself just a little bit more room. Okay. Take a look at a radius dimension. Select this arc here, go ahead and place it. Just going to hit the enter button, and I'll go ahead and place these two here. Go ahead and finish these out. So I'm just going to use ED, and that just stands for edit text, right? Go ahead and select on here, and what I'm going to do is just put the word two places behind it, right? So I'll just come all the way to the end of it, hit enter, and type in two places. Let's turn the caps on. And so the ED command is just, it's one of those basic commands just for editing all text. Really powerful. I'm just trying to make sure I get through all of this view before I go to the last view here. Alright, so we have our two places located on all these, because this represents this arc, and it's one on the back side. I know you can't see it, a little difficult to create, but we do have it. Alright, lastly, let's go ahead and put a few dimensions on here. So go back to our linear dimension. Let's go ahead and place our overall height. Now this is actually a reference dimension, so I will make sure that that's a reference. And I will do this dimension from here to here as a reference. I'll explain to you the reason why they're reference dimensions, right? The easiest way of saying that is that this dimension already is located here. So therefore this one is. As far as this one, you can figure that out if you add the 30 plus the 25. That'll give me a height of 55. So therefore, both of those dimensions can be achieved without these dimensions on them. So therefore they're reference. That reference meaning basically do it to these dimensions here, and then this is here basically just to help you. So the overall height should be 55. Let's go ahead and come back and finish these dimensions. So I'll go ahead and put a linear dimension on this one. And put another linear dimension from this endpoint to here. Okay, let's go ahead and make both of those dimension references. So I will select the 55 dimension and the 60 dimension. Slide over in my properties, come down to when it says primary units, and let's see, I'm looking for text override. Oh, sorry, it'll be in the text. So it's underneath the text tab drop down, then text override, I'll select here, open parentheses, less than, greater than, close parentheses. Go ahead and hit enter. Alright, so we have all of our views basically created. Let's go ahead and place this. So I'm going to scale this down because it's quite big. Remember that this is just a pictorial view of what we have here. So I will select it. Type in scale. That's going to be SC. Enter. I'll just click somewhere near this part and type in 0.75. Let's go ahead and move this into position. And turn the ortho off. Alright. I just hit the zoom extents or double click with your middle mouse wheel. Alright, so one other thing that you're going to have to get used to in standard, say I wanted to name one of these views, for example the top view, right? And I wanted this to be a certain height. Say I wanted it to be 3/16 or 0.1875. So if I wanted it to be that height and I want to create that text, I have to do the multiplication when I'm using the standard option. And I'll show you what that means. So right now I'm using standard text, and I'll show you the difference between both of them. So underneath the standard option here, and I want to create that text, and I'll use dynamic text. So I'll go single line. I want it to be middle center. It's going to be my justification. So I'll type in MC, hit enter, and it's going to ask me where's that middle center point. I'll click here, and then it says what is the height. So here I have to do the multiplication. I have to multiply whatever height I want it to be times the scale factor. I'll let the calculator do that for me. So apostrophe CAL, go ahead and hit enter. Remember the height I want this to be is 0.1875. So 0.1875 times whatever your scale factor is. In this case, it'll be 30. And once I do that and hit enter, it's going to ask me for a rotation. Really don't care about the rotation at this point. It's going to be 0. And now I'm ready to type in whatever I want it to be, right? So this is just going to be called top. All right, click off of it and then hit escape. Okay, so that's going to be standard text height, right? I have to do the math. If I use the annotation scale, and I'll go ahead and show you that really quick. This is annotative. And let's go ahead and do the right side view here. I have to set this, so anytime I'm using annotative, I have to tell it that I'm using an annotative scale, right? So my annotative is set to 1 to 30. And then I go ahead and use single line text. All the same stuff is going to apply. So if I say, hey, make it middle center, click here for middle center, the height of it. Now I want you to see what it says here. It says specify the paper height. The paper height is what I want it to be. It's 0.1875. AutoCAD says, hey, give me the paper height. Don't worry about the multiplication. So when I hit enter here, it's going to ask me for the rotation. I'll go ahead and hit enter. And now I'm able to type in what view I want this to be or the size. So I can say, hey, this is my right side view. Go ahead and click off and hit escape. So these should be the same height. And you do see that they are the same height. One says you have to do the multiplication. If I'm using the standard method, remember, you have to do the multiplication. If you're using the annotative scale, then you don't. You just type in whatever size you want the paper to be. That's the most important thing, or the difference between using paper height or annotation versus the standard, right? So when I go ahead and set this back to 1 here, just so I'm not confusing myself here, let's do a regen. Okay. So we do have both of these. Right? So that's going to be your important thing to know, that if you are creating things using annotation versus standard. Standard works fine. Just understand that you have to do the multiplication. If you use the calculator command, you can save yourself a step, or pull out your calculator next to you and do that. It works exactly the same, right? So hopefully you enjoyed this detailed view or detailed explanation of how to create something like this. I do want to appreciate everybody that's still liking and watching these videos, and as the channel is growing, y'all are giving me more confidence. So please go ahead and leave me a comment. Feel free to share this video if you know someone that'll get any use out of this, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.